2.2 billion euros. This is not the budget of a multinational company. It is the amount that a single European country loses every year due to smoking, the equivalent of 4% of its entire gross domestic product. This is just one of the hidden costs of a habit that drains both resources and lives across the continent, often where we would least expect it. In this video, we will not simply reveal the surprising ranking of the 10 European countries where smoking is most widespread. We will go further, uncovering paradoxes, ignored laws, the toll in human lives, and the massive economic burden weighing on entire nations, even on those who do not smoke. Welcome to Amazing Europe. Number 10. Greece. What would happen if almost a month and a half of your salary vanished every year? For many in Greece, where the average net salary is around 1,100 euros, this is not a hypothetical scenario. The 1,800 euros spent on cigarettes annually represents a hidden cost, a figure that, day after day, slips out of the wallet almost unnoticed. However, this personal figure is only the first piece of a much larger puzzle, a national paradox. Greece has strict anti-smoking laws, but reality tells another story. Fines exceeding 380,000 euros, issued in 2023 alone, are clear evidence of a widely ignored regulation, a daily charade that takes place in bars and restaurants all over the country. But there is an even higher price, one that cannot be measured in euros. It concerns health. The statistics here are striking. Every hour, lung cancer causes one death, more than breast, colon, and prostate cancers combined. Experts state that in Greece, the leading cause of this cancer is not pollution. It is smoking itself. With a smoking prevalence of 29.6%, Greece ranks 10th in our list. A position echoed by another alarming figure: the 700,000 cases of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, an illness often caused by cigarette smoke that makes breathing progressively more difficult. The final result of this chain of events is a multi-billion euro impact on public healthcare, a cost that, in one way or another, affects the whole of society. Number 9. Slovakia. In Slovakia, there is an unwritten 1,800 euro a year tax. You won't find it in any law, but every smoker pays it, as around 150 euros disappears from their bank account each month to fuel cigarette purchases. This personal financial drain is the first sign of a deeper and more paradoxical national problem. While much of Europe is fighting to reduce the number of smokers, Slovakia is moving in the opposite direction, with smoking rates actually increasing in recent years. It is no coincidence that the country has one of the lowest life expectancies among OECD nations. This translates into a silent yet deadly health crisis. Cardiovascular diseases, closely linked to smoking, kill about 25,000 people every year, more than deaths from accidents and cancer combined, with an alarming surge in heart attacks and strokes. With a smoking rate of 30.2%, Slovakia rightfully earns its place in our ranking. And here comes the double blow. Citizens pay twice, first for cigarettes, then for medication, which represents an astonishing 43% of private healthcare spending. Of course, this figure includes more than just treatments for smoking-related conditions. It reflects total pharmaceutical spending. However, experts highlight that a significant portion of that money mountain is directly tied to tobacco-related illnesses. The result is a hole of more than 2 billion euros per year in the national economy, a social cost that slows down the country's development and weighs on everyone's shoulders. Number 8. Turkey. In Turkey, the tobacco industry generates over 2.5 billion euros in revenue every year, a colossal figure, almost hard to imagine. Yet part of this immense wealth comes from an illegal and dangerous source: the sale of cigarettes to minors. This practice is banned by law, with fines reaching up to 240,000 Turkish lira, more than 5,000 euros. This is the first paradox of a country caught between strict laws and a reality spinning out of control. Smoking is everywhere, not only in the streets but also inside homes, where nearly 40% of the population is exposed to second-hand smoke, one of the highest rates in the world. And while the tobacco economy thrives, the national economy pays an enormous price. But the real cost doesn't appear on any balance sheet. It is counted in human lives. The statistics resemble a war report. Every hour, 12 people in this transcontinental country die from smoking-related causes. That's 85,000 lives lost every year. With a smoking rate of 30.7%, Turkey earns a grimly high spot in our ranking. Healthcare spending on smoking-related diseases alone accounts for 9% of the country's total health budget. The final result is a hole of more than 1.7 billion euros in the national economy. A heavy burden that falls on the entire society and is paid by everyone, smokers and non-smokers alike. Number 7. Montenegro. Imagine walking into a hospital for a checkup and discovering that the doctor treating you is a smoker. In Montenegro, this is not a remote possibility. In fact, specific studies on healthcare and education professionals have revealed that over half of them smoke, with 37% admitting to doing so daily. This statistic alone captures a deeply rooted paradox in the country. On paper, there is a strict law that bans smoking in all public and workplace environments. But the reality tells a very different story. A survey among students aged 13 to 15 showed that nearly 60% of them are exposed to smoke in public venues. This level of tolerance is so widespread that it has even flipped traditional gender stereotypes. Montenegrin women, at 33.2%, now smoke more than men, who stand at 30.9%. This is one of the few places in the world where women outsmoke men. But this habit carries a deadly price. Every year, 1,325 people die from causes directly linked to tobacco. Nearly 4 deaths every single day. It is a silent massacre that extends to the next generation, as almost half of all youth are regularly exposed to second-hand smoke inside their homes. Not to mention the public exposure we mentioned earlier. With a smoking prevalence of 32.1%, Montenegro secures one of the top positions in this grim ranking. And the final bill, one that weighs on the entire nation, amounts to nearly 130 million euros every year. Number 6. Croatia. Imagine having to pay a 35,000 euro bill, not for a service or a luxury, but for the privilege of shortening your own life. This is not just a scenario. It is the estimated total cost, including both cigarette purchases and medical treatment, that a Croatian smoker faces over 20 years. It is estimated that a smoker in Croatia spends over 13,000 euros in 20 years just on buying cigarettes. And for some, smoking-related medical treatments add another 22,000 euros, a total of 35,000 euros that simply vanishes. Every year, Croatia loses 14,000 citizens to smoking-related causes, the equivalent of wiping an entire small town off the map year after year. This silent tragedy has lung cancer at its core. In 95% of cases, this type of cancer in Croatia affects smokers. The problem, however, is not limited to the present. It is embedded in the future. Recent surveys have revealed an alarming trend. Among the youngest generations, the number of girls who smoke has now equaled that of boys, showing that the next generation is already fully involved. With a smoking rate of 32.6%, Croatia earns a prominent spot in this ranking. And here lies the economic paradox. While citizens pay with their health, the state suffers a double blow. On one side, the illegal cigarette market has deprived it of 57 million euros in tax revenue in a single year. On the other, the total cost of smoking to the national economy is approaching €500 million. Number 5. Bulgaria. To be precise, if we had included microstates, Andorra would have taken 5th place, with 33.6% of adults smoking. In Bulgaria, the toll of smoking-related deaths is merciless. Nearly 40 people die every single day. At the end of the year, that amounts to 14,000 lives lost, just like in Croatia, as if an entire town were wiped off the map. It is a true national epidemic, one rooted in one of the most deeply ingrained smoking cultures in Europe. And here, we find a statistic that flips traditional gender stereotypes. Among young people over 15 years old, the percentage of girls who smoke is 30%, dramatically higher than the 21% recorded among boys. This nearly unique trend sets the stage for a future health crisis with a female face. But what does it actually mean to smoke in Bulgaria? It means facing a terrifying probability. The risk of developing lung cancer is up to 25 times higher than for non-smokers. This is not just a numbers game. It is the direct consequence of a constant bombardment of carcinogenic agents that attack lung tissue day after day. To this, we must add the more than 90,000 Bulgarians battling chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. With a smoking population of 34%, the country earns its tragic place in our ranking. The final blow, however, is the economic cost. Out of a cigarette pack that costs 6 lev, 4.5 go to the state in excise and taxes. But these 4.5 lev cover only half the actual damage that smoking inflicts on the public system. This translates into a black hole of over 2.2 billion euros every year, draining almost 4% of the country's entire gross domestic product. Number 4. Cyprus. Every year, the Cypriot economy loses nearly €500 million, an enormous figure considering the size of this small island nation. And this loss is not due to a financial crisis, but to a habit that drains both resources and human lives: smoking. This cost represents the hidden price paid by society for healthcare expenses and productivity losses linked to tobacco. It is the paradox of an island that, by law, bans smoking in enclosed public spaces, yet where the daily reality tells a different story. Nearly 4 out of 10 Cypriots say they have been exposed to smoke in public venues, a figure that reveals just how often these regulations are ignored. And the consequences are written in the medical statistics. Every year, nearly 1,200 people die from smoking-related diseases. This accounts for 13% of all deaths in the country, a tragic percentage, with lung cancer and heart disease being the leading causes. With a smoking prevalence of 34%, Cyprus ranks among the countries with the highest rates in Europe. The situation is especially alarming among men, where the smoking rate jumps to 46%, one of the highest figures on the continent. There is, however, a noteworthy trend. Per capita cigarette consumption in Cyprus is steadily declining. Over the past 10 years, it has dropped by a remarkable 65%, from 103 packs per person in 2002 to just 36 packs in 2021. Number 3. Bosnia and Herzegovina. Every month, up to 180 convertible marks, nearly €90, disappear from the pockets of the average smoker in Bosnia and Herzegovina. On a net average salary, this amounts to a voluntary tax of over 12%. It is a huge cost, but nothing compared to the price the entire country pays for political paralysis. Here, the fight against smoking is patchy and inconsistent. In the Federation, one of the country's 2 entities, there is a law banning smoking in public venues. But cross the street and you enter Republika Srpska, where such a law does not exist. It is a legal absurdity that pushes citizens of Sarajevo to travel to nearby Istočno Sarajevo just to enjoy a coffee with a cigarette. This legislative chaos creates the perfect hunting ground, where the prey is the next generation. The data is chilling. Nearly 1 in 4 school-aged children regularly use tobacco products, and hookah has even become more popular than cigarettes. How do they manage it? The answer is disarming. 81% of them have never been denied the purchase of cigarettes because of their age. The law is a ghost, but behind this chaos lies a silent tragedy. Every year, nearly 6,700 people die from tobacco-related causes. And with more than half the population exposed to second-hand smoke at home, disease is a permanent guest. With a smoking prevalence of 35.1%, the country secures a prominent spot in our ranking. The final toll is a chasm of nearly 900 million convertible marks, around €458 million, that the Bosnian economy loses each year, an unsustainable burden paid by everyone. Number 2. Serbia. Every year, Serbian families spend nearly 9% of their entire household budget not on food, education, or healthcare, but on tobacco. This is the reality of a nation where nearly 18,000 people die each year from smoking-related diseases. This is not an abstract statistic. It is a full-blown health crisis with staggering economic and social costs. Smoking is responsible for nearly 21% of all deaths in the country. with conditions such as ischemic heart disease and lung cancer topping the list of causes. Laws restricting smoking do exist, but their enforcement is often weak and half-hearted, leaving wide margins for tolerance. With a smoking rate of 36.6%, Serbia firmly holds one of the top spots in our ranking. Especially alarming is the figure for women. 34.6% of adult women smoke, one of the highest rates in Europe. The final outcome is a double blow for the country. On one hand, there is the immeasurable loss of human life and healthy years lost to disability. On the other, an economic hole estimated at over 200 billion dinars, around 1.7 billion euros, that heavily burdens the healthcare system and holds back national development, a weight carried by the entire population. Before revealing number one, we invite you to support our project by liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and clicking the bell icon so you don't miss any of our updates. And if you want to see what this ranking would look like if we included all US states and all Canadian provinces and territories, head over to our other channel, America vs. Europe, where we've made a dedicated video on that topic. Number 1. North Macedonia. In North Macedonia, in households with smokers, 13.2% of the family budget does not go to food or education. It literally goes up in smoke. And there is another expense that makes things worse: alcohol. In this country, the two habits are closely linked. In fact, 12.5% of the budget in smoking households is spent on alcohol, an amount 11 times higher than in non-smoking households. This double vice erodes the foundations of a society where starting to smoke at age 13 is considered completely normal. It's no surprise, then, that nearly half of the adult male population smokes regularly, feeding a vicious cycle. Cigarettes, among the cheapest in the region, are accessible to everyone. And the laws? They exist, but they are mere shadows. Their enforcement is so weak that they are practically ignored. People smoke even on covered patios of bars and restaurants, turning the ban into a farce. The consequences are devastating. Every day, 14 lives are lost due to tobacco, totaling more than 5,000 deaths each year. But the toll doesn't end there. Smoking is responsible for 30% of all years of life lost to illness and disability. The smoking culture is so deeply rooted that smoking cessation centres remain nearly empty, and very few seriously try to quit. With a smoking rate of 39%, North Macedonia earns the top position in our ranking. The final cost is a crushing burden for the entire nation. An economic toll of 38 billion dinars per year, about 615 million euros, a weight that slows development and is paid by everyone. We can't wait to hear your thoughts and experiences on this topic. And since we mentioned alcohol, here you can discover the 10 European countries where people drink the most. That's all for this video. See you next time.